All right, we can start. We're live.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Builders of Bharat, an exclusive series where we delve deep into career trajectories of successful tech leaders and try to understand how they got to their level of success. Today, we have a very special guest because it's someone who's contributed so heavily into some of the startups that we've grown so accustomed to, be it Flipkart or Pharmacy. This man has built engineering teams there, and we're really excited to have him here today to talk about his career, how he's grown in his career, and what decisions he took that made him reach the point that he has. Please join me in welcoming Santosh Pawar. Welcome, sir. It's a pleasure to have you today.
Hey, thanks a lot, and really looking forward for this conversation. It is interesting to see how I can actually also contribute back, how my journey can help others, if it can, to take their career decisions or in any which ways. So yeah, looking
No,
forward.
Yeah, definitely. Because we were speaking earlier on when we were, discussing about getting on call, getting on this session, and we had a very interesting chat where I felt like you didn't sugarcoat anything, and I think that's very important for us to be real and for us to accept the circumstances as they are and adapt ourselves to the circumstances. Uh, and that's what I've been looking forward to the most about this session. We'll start off on a lighter note. Love to know how your early years were and how you grew an inclination towards technology.
Uh, to be very honest, I don't know how. I would not, as you said, as you started this, right? That one of the things with me is that um, I I see things as much as possible. I see things as they are, and I started as any normal kid, got into education. Not really. The education was predominantly because my parents really forced me to into it, as in a convent school and stuff like that, because my father really believed that if I don't do well, I will not be able to have a job where I can sit and work. My dad
Oh.
used to stand and work. My dad had the only thing that, oh, he should not stand and work; he should sit and work. And that is where it all started. And then I had my own friends. Uh, One thing that was there was I was good at maths.
Yeah.
That was something that is to love solving problems. I always used to get into understanding new maths problems and figuring
Mhm.
out things. One of the things that my prof in my 10th standard used to say is that there are 112 kids in this batch. We will get only 111 question papers or answer papers, because for you it will be an oral exam. So I had
Yeah.
this I had this swag, call it a swag, that
Mhm.
I used to sit in the last bench, and whenever a problem used to be put on the board, he used to write the problem on the board, and whenever he used to ask me to solve it, by the time I come across to the board, I used to
Yeah.
solve it. I used to write the answer first, and then write the steps to solve it. So he kind of had actually, he used to joke around saying that, oh, we need a oral exam for you in maths, not a written exam. So that's how it was.
Mhm.
Always interested in maths. Took science in my pre-university. Hated
Mhm.
chemistry to the core. I never used to
Yeah.
realize when I'm studying chemistry and when I used to shift to physics and mathematics
Mhm.
there. So that's how it all started. And you asked me about technology, is it?
Yeah. But it makes sense because the problem solving, as you mentioned, it's the core of technology, right? And you have to
Right.
have that mindset to get into it. And obviously, math gives you a really good, framework to build off of that. Wanted to know, so as you said, you took up engineering and you took up science as your stream as well. How were your expectations like when you were getting into college? Because I understand that that time the career lines were a lot different. and you probably had some expectations about what it was going to look like if you got a degree from engineering.
But again, right? Nothing very special. It was okay. What the framework was simple. What's that? What's the branch that is going to get you a job easily?
Yeah.
There it is. I did not know anything about computers to actually know to start with. I did not know
Mhm.
anything about, let's say, a mechanical or a civil, or let's say electronics and communication. To be very honest, I did not do any kind of a homework
Yeah.
in terms of what these things are and how these things are. The only thought
Mhm.
process there was that, oh, the framework was okay. Is it financially viable? Is it something that I can actually
Build a
get
career
into?
in.
And is it something that I'm finishing the curriculum? Will I be able to get a job? What is that
Yeah.
branch, right?
Mhm.
Having said that, I think one interesting thing that happened in my and this is one of the accidental startup, I call it, is when in my first semester, when I was studying, my father's factory went through a lockout, and
Okay.
because of that lockout, what happened was the situation at home was that, oh, first semester, can I continue my study or not? So that was
All right.
what was the situation.
Mhm.
And the reason why I'm bringing this up is this connects to the computers now. I started something called as Pawar Computers,
Okay.
which is how I supported my education, engineering education. At that point of time, it was the computers were just coming up. 2000 was just when people were the personal computer space was just happening,
Right. Yeah.
and not really everybody wanted a assembled one because the
Mhm.
branded ones were very expensive. So the assembled ones were the ones that were people were looking out for. So I used to come to Bangalore, go to the SP Road. If you guys are familiar with SP Road,
Mhm.
like negotiate the parts, like pick some parts, pick the 64 GB, 64 MB RAM, like a 20 GB
Right.
hard disk, this microprocessor, and this motherboard, and so on and so forth, this cabinet and this monitor, uh,
Mhm.
and then pick it up and take it back. And that's how I started doing this assembling as a business while I was
Right.
studying engineering. So that, I think, that actually also, without without a real intent, I learned about hardware a lot,
Right.
in terms of what are the components, what are the things inside the actual computer, and stuff like that. So, to be very honest, there is nothing that I actually planned to do and did it. But
Mhm.
retrospectively, if I tell this story, it looks like, wow, it
It is,
sounds
it
like.
is, it is very impressive, and it's something that I didn't know of because we didn't discuss it the last time we spoke. So it's quite a surprise, but it's really impressive, and I think that kind of helped you understand the building blocks of computers, right? And
Yeah, it
it,
is. It was a natural learning, right? It was like the troubleshooting that I had to do. Those were the times when the phones were not available. So
yeah,
uh, I had to give a free service for a year for anybody I sold the computer. Half of the hostel I had actually provided the
that's
computers with.
amazing.
So I had to like there were times when people would have not have plugged it properly, and they used to call saying that the computer is not starting up, and I
Yeah,
used to go and check something, and then you realize that, oh, this is just a plug problem. uh, to
yeah,
to a to a memory corruption that used to happen, and OS corruption that used to happen, and so on and so forth.
hmm,
The troubleshooting was real,
yeah.
right? People were facing those problems, and the troubleshooting was real, and that really helped me, not just on the, I would say, more than the technology side. It was more to service and business and those aspects,
Understand
which,
problems and provide solutions.
yeah. In real time, it was not an
Yeah,
option. It was not an optional thing. I had to do it.
yeah, yeah. I think that's really amazing. I think that in itself is a better experience than any college can provide you.
of course.
because you got to do everything from procurement to kind of assembly and distribution and post sales. So
Yes.
I think it was a business school experience all in all,
Yeah.
and
Only thing that I'd like to add is, Mukul, is that I think I passed out in 2004. I kind of like started winding it down in
Mhm.
2003 because it was getting very hard because the number of
Yeah,
computers that I gave was very large in number, and I was not
right.
able to service them. So I had to like I stopped taking orders. But
Mhm.
I think one of the things that hit me, I think in 2000, maybe 6 or 7, when I read
Right.
Dell, the book by Michael Dell.
Okay.
And I read his story, and it was so much in resemblance with what I had done. He used to also do
Mhm.
assembly. He used to put everything, all the parts in his car trunk and take it
Mhm.
out there and sell it. The only difference I kind of see between him and me is why Dell is Dell Computers and Santosh Pawar is Santosh Pawar. Is that he started out saying that I want to compete with IBM, and I
Right.
started out saying that I want to support my education. So
Hmm.
it's just a difference in the goal,
Right.
right? Now, whether I would be successful if I had taken a bigger goal or not, but taking a smaller goal was there is no absolute no chance that I would think of to actually take it to the next level. Like for example, I could
Mhm.
have employed somebody to actually do the services,
Right. Right.
right?
Yeah.
I could have done like I could have innovated in terms of how do I procure more or do more and so on and so forth. But just because
Mhm.
the goal
Yeah.
was a certain thing, right?
Yeah.
It just pushes you to think in those directions. So, smaller goal, you kind of
Mhm.
have a way of thought process. A bigger goal, the thought process is different.
Yeah.
Success and failure is independent,
Right.
but just this what goal you are chasing.
It affects the
Uh,
decision making you do,
yes,
and
yes,
that changes your course as well.
exactly,
But
exactly.
your course kind of helped you land a job at TCS,
Yeah. Yes.
and I guess that would have been a decision made out of stability, and it was the idea that a job would have been more stable as compared to running your business. How was it landing your first job, and what was the interview process like, and what was the culture like when you walked into your first job back then?
I think very few opportunities used to come into our college. I think in that was ours was the lucky batch where
Mhm.
we had a few companies coming over to the college and doing campus interviews.
Right.
Uh, the interview process of TCS was pretty simple. There was a written test. I think they do the same right now also.
Mhm.
There was a written test, and after the written test, there were like a couple of rounds of interviews, I think, um, which uh, which were predominantly to check your attitude. It was not a very heavy tech kind of an interview, I would say.
Mhm.
It was more to do with how good maybe you are at learning, how you are flexible, those kind of stuff, than
Yeah.
really trying to look at the technical aspects. There were a few technical aspects. Uh,
Mhm.
while that is true, I would like to talk about the other interview that failed. I think we all see the things that happened fine, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which which will not come on my LinkedIn. The interview
Mhm.
that I did not go through was Mindtree,
All right.
and that was a great experience for me actually, where I went till the last round, and the last round happened at 4 a.m. in the morning. I remember
Okay.
it was a quite a bit of an experience. The whole like from a written test to doing all the rounds in a single day from 10 a.m. to
Mhm.
4 a.m., where you are, while you are getting tired and stuff like that, you're still with a tie and trying to put your strong
Best
face,
foot forward. Yeah.
yeah, and going through it. That did not happen.
Mhm.
While that did not happen, that really like I don't know what went wrong or how did it not go through. Maybe it was just a function of the ranked list and how many people they wanted to actually take.
Yeah.
Coming back to TCS, TCS was great. We had our training for 3 months in Trivandrum.
Mhm.
That was like a in-house training that they used to conduct. I don't know whether they do it right now also, where
Mhm.
they make you go through some of the basics of tech. They make you go through one of the foreign languages.
Right.
They also it's all trying to get you into the corporate life. I think both
Mhm.
Infosys and Tech TCS have this as a major thing in their in the way they actually induct professionals.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think going into TCS, I was placed in Bangalore. Again, Trivandrum. From Trivandrum, if you are not one of the top candidates out of the training part, you will not
Mhm.
get your first preferences. So you will have to give your
Yeah.
preferences.
Yeah.
So you can actually be like placed anywhere in India, and they have quite a bit of places in India, right? Overall,
Yeah.
I was based in Bangalore, ITPL. Travel was a huge challenge for me in Bangalore, but I think TCS first day or they they had this 4 days of formal attire and one day you can be casual.
Mhm.
Fridays were the
Right.
casual ones. So you had this thing of maintaining the formal attire
Decorum and everything.
all through. But it was better than the training because in the training you had to wear a tie also. So formal meant tie
Yeah.
also. So
Yeah.
it was relatively better. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, I think that's how it all started. And I kind of landed into a like a PLSQL Oracle kind of a project.
Right.
I got into Deutsche Bank as my client.
Mhm.
It was offshore development center for Deutsche Bank,
Yeah.
and I was there with Deutsche Bank all through for 3 years. And in my stint with ECS.
Mhm.
So it started with a PL SQL and Oracle for roughly like maybe 6 months or so, and
Okay.
then was okay in TCS. Most of the people, my batchmates also, and everybody, TCS Infosys is known for on-sites.
Yeah.
So you tend to kind of it's a dream that oh you'll be able to fly somewhere and work somewhere and uh, roam the world as well as do work, right?
Mhm.
Having said that, I had a different opinion after looking at people who were going on site, and
Yeah.
I chose to not go on site whenever I got those opportunities because the kind of job that they were doing was not really not for all, but for many it used to bring down the amount of code that they used to write. So
Mhm.
they were responsible for doing some coding work plus some coordinating work,
Yeah.
because of which I kind of declined some of these on-site opportunities because I wanted to kind of really get my hands dirty as much as possible.
Mhm.
Uh,
Absolutely.
and I think in the roughly 8 or 9 months down the line, joining TCS, I landed into a project which was one uh, one of the major systems of Deutsche Bank,
Mhm.
which the data from all over the world, all the branches of their banks used to come and sit in Germany, and
Yeah.
there used to be a major system that used to churn this data, and there was an
Right.
output that used to come out, which was also an input to the NYSE stock exchange in
Mhm.
New York, which would decide what would the price for the next day. Now,
Right.
this system was built on shell scripts.
Okay.
Entire system was built on shell
Mhm.
scripts. Um, 6,000 lines of shell scripts, 8,000 lines of shell scripts. That huge of shell scripts. I and I somehow had a liking for that black screen. If you know about the shell scripting, it's just a black screen. You write the script, and error
Right.
comes ticking only at the end of the line, and you don't know what that error is. It will just tell the line
Yeah.
number and some cryptic error that used to come.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why they gave this project was because the people who were dealing with this, who had built this, were at the age of
Mhm.
60 or 62, and they were about to retire. And
Right.
now they did not have anyone to kind of take care of this systems.
Right.
And these were the
Right.
guys who were PhDs. They were not just engineers. They were
Yeah.
hardcore. Think about back in 2004, 2005, who is a 60-year-old
Mhm.
and has been into computers.
Yeah.
Uh, they were the real people who really wanted to do computers, because they did not. It was not just a function of, oh, I will get some money out of it. They were the real engineers
Yeah.
who went and did doctorates.
Passionate about it.
Yeah, doctorates in the same field. Now these guys had used
Mhm.
some of the commands which were not even released in the
All
Linux
right.
systems, because they
Mhm.
were some of these people who contributed to the kernel of
All
the
right.
operating system. So they knew
Really
these commands
interesting.
because they had coded for it,
Right.
right? And they had used these commands, and there was no manual or no help available for these commands, but they had used these things. So it was a great experience to go through that reverse engineering process to
All right.
understand the behavior of this command without having any help, and then figure out
Mhm.
what to do. So this project was about porting this shell scripts to Python, because
All right.
that's what they wanted to do. So that was a
Mhm.
great experience. I think that if I remember one thing about TCS is this project that I remember, which
And
actually
it must
made,
have been that exposure as well, because
exactly. So
yeah.
uh, very critical, very cryptic at the same time,
Mhm.
which actually exposed me to really push my all my problem solving skills into it, and to actually make it a success.
That's wonderful. I think the reverse engineering, as you said, I guess that goes back to how you were, assembling computers as well, and kind of
Right,
figuring out on the go. So it's really nice to see how that problem solving aspect wasn't just, an interest of yours, but something that you used to sustain and kind of build your, present wherever you went. Uh,
right.
so moving on from TCS, obviously, you had a longer stint at Cisco, which was another, really large company with global teams. Uh, so what was like the good parts of working with Cisco that kind of made you stay for 8 years? I understand now we're talking about 8 years, and it seems like a really long time because the average stints have gone down so much. But at the same time, in 8 years, 8-year growth in a company is really impressive, and I guess there's a reason why companies like Cisco are so successful in this because they retain talent like that. So what were the good parts of working with Cisco that made you kind of have that long stint?
Yeah, while it comes up as Cisco, it's not really Cisco. Just let me correct
Mhm.
that there. It is NDS actually.
Right.
Uh, NDS is a company which deals with direct to home solutions. The setup
Okay.
box. So Tata Sky, Airtel, all these were clients of NDS in India.
Mhm.
Then there was BSkyB, the Sky in UK, DirecTV in US. So this
Mhm.
this as a it's a Israeli company. NDS is an Israeli company, and started as more of a cryptography, because the smart card that comes in the set-top box, right, is what
Yeah.
uh, is a proprietary IP from
Mhm.
NDS, and that was what I joined as. Cisco actually took over NDS, I think in 2012 or 13,
Mhm.
um, roughly in around that time. So it was predominantly NDS where my stay was, and
Yeah.
it stayed again while Cisco took it over. It kind of, we did not really merge into Cisco because Cisco was looking at Cisco Video Technologies as a separate unit altogether.
All right.
And this acquisition was a major boost for that Cisco Video Technologies.
Definitely. Yeah.
Uh, but anyways, coming back to this whole idea of long
Mhm.
stint
Yeah.
and how was it and stuff like that. So again, um, I was hired there for actually doing some PLSQL. Like there was a project that I had to do, which was very important for the overall. It was the legacy system that had to be figured out, and decisions had to be taken whether it has to be rewritten or not, and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I kind of moved into different roles there. I moved from being somebody who is into scripting and PLSQL database and stuff like that to object-oriented programming like Java.
Mhm.
I got involved into something called as offer management. Offer management is basically it's not very prevalent in India, but think of IPL.
Yeah.
In IPL, let's say IPL becomes a pay-per-view. The idea of a pay-per-view is that you just buy that match. You don't buy the whole thing. You just
Right.
pay for that match only.
Mhm.
This is something that is very prevalent in let's say in the West, in the US.
Yeah, American sports a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. But again, right now it's a bit of a, I would say, a legacy because with
Yeah.
things changing to OTT, these things are much easier. But when
Yeah.
you're talking about satellite and when you're talking about an antenna actually pulling in these things, and you
Mhm.
being able to do these things efficiently as well as authentically, the
Right.
technology had to be very robust. The technology had
Absolutely.
to take care of these things because everything is in the air. You can actually take it out, and there can be leaky buckets at all places, and
Absolutely.
if somebody can actually decrypt it, you are at loss, right? So
Yeah.
offer management was basically to be able to it was supposed to be somebody who buys something, they should be able
Mhm.
to watch it, and somebody who has not bought it should not be able to watch it. So these two conditions had to be really met,
Implemented.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was really a core of what I was dealing with there over a period of time. I eventually became the lead as well as the manager for
Mhm.
this team,
All right.
dealing with multiple customers
Mhm.
across the globe, and that actually led to really interact with different nationalities, the
Mhm.
people in Israel, people in UK, predominantly were both customers and colleagues,
All right.
and especially spending roughly maybe a year in Jerusalem was great.
Mhm.
Not really at one chunk, but in multiple chunks. But spending almost 2 years in London also, I think that exposure was a different kind of an exposure on
Absolutely.
how they look at problems. Like, and
Yeah.
it was so culturally different. Like how
Mhm.
Israeli looks at a problem, and when I say Israeli, I'm not just talking about a technologist here. I'm talking
Yeah.
about a taxi driver also who is looking at a problem versus how, let's say, people look at problems in the UK and how we look at problems, right?
Yeah.
That was a great exposure for me to actually understand these things and implement those things wherever I could apply
Mhm.
and take it forward. So that and I had a very simple thumb rule, as in I was, of course, 8 years. Anybody would. I had so many people, so many of my colleagues, or so many of my well wishers used to say that, "What are you? Why are you wasting your time? You're not even getting your worth. Um,
Mhm.
you should actually shift. You should maybe look out for something else." Because by 2010, maybe not in 2010 also, right? 2012 onwards. Slowly the startup ecosystem was catching up.
Yeah.
Flipkart had established itself, and there were other companies that had come over. Amazon happened in 2013.
Mhm.
Because of these things, there were so many other small companies that were also cropping up in India, especially in Bangalore.
Right.
So overall, when people used to talk to me, I it was it didn't never struck me saying that, oh, it's a big deal, that,
Hmm.
oh, I have to chase this thing and actually do these things. My simple thumb rule was that, am I learning? Uh, am I getting paid so that my needs are getting satisfied? And am I are they keeping me excited?
Yeah.
So this was a simple thumb rule that I used to have. And again, this is in retrospective that I'm telling you all these things. I would say, it was more natural to me,
Yeah.
that these things were there, and not really. So 8 years was not like a long period of time for me. Uh, but at the same time, I would say that spending a lot of time actually spending time with the systems, spending time with this production systems, right? One thing is about building the systems.
Right.
The exposure that I got actually spending time with the customers who were using the system that I built,
Hmm.
right? That exposure is very unique. That feedback loop is very unique. So I think
Yeah.
that, okay, this is how it will work. This is how it will get used. This is how they
Hmm.
will actually, um, because that's the thought process that we built it with. But
Yep.
one is the customers using it. One is the systems behaving also. You think the systems will
Hmm.
behave in a certain way, but
Right.
systems have their own mind. Systems have their own own ways of actually behaving and showing some impact and output, which I think is
Hmm.
only possible if you spend time
Yep.
with them, right? You can keep building stuff, you can keep releasing stuff, and not really spend time with it. That doesn't
Hmm.
actually put in that foundation into what was the output, what was the retrospective, what was did it work the way I was expecting it to work, what are those new learnings that I've had. I
Right.
think that is something that really was a major learning for me because of the
Hmm.
time that I spent there. And I think 3 years in TCS also was like major, because I wanted to look at, okay, I thought this is how it should work, but is it working like that? Is it behaving the way I'm expecting it to work? And that
Yeah.
accomplishment of actually listening it from the customers, listening from them, right, is a different kind of a satisfaction. And that's the reason
Right.
I think I stayed back uh,
It was
for
that
those.
gratification.
Yes, yes. And
Wonderful.
delayed
Wonderful.
gratification. Let's
Yes.
put it the
Yes. Yes.
delayed
Yes.
gratification. You can't
Absolutely, because you stuck through the process and saw it come to fruition, and
right.
that's how it made sense. And even with, as you said, about learning how customers and your consumers are approaching the problem, that kind of gives you a more holistic vision of how you're supposed to build your systems in the future. So I think that's wonderful. You mentioned that the Indian startup ecosystem is booming, and I'm going to come back to that. Uh, so I know you worked with Flipkart, but there must have been a lot of stigma back then. I understand that startup ecosystem was booming, but at the same time there was stigma about the kind of security working with companies that were startups, and the kind of work environment, the kind of hustle involved. So how did you feel about those aspects when you were starting off your stint with Flipkart?
To be honest, those were out of syllabus for me. Those were not some things that bothered me at all. Flipkart
Right.
was interesting for me because Flipkart, as a company, I never. I was a fanboy of both Binny and Sachin and Flipkart. This is something that distinctly I remember. So Cisco, I used to visit Cisco office in on the Outer Ring Road, and Flipkart office was also inside the same campus.
All right.
One long building there, and in the reception, there was this big map that used to be
Okay.
visible from outside on the internal roads there, where if I come up the ramp of Cisco's exit, right, that reception used to be visible, and on that map used to bring up the item that was bought in which part of the country. So it was automated in such a way that the map used to show up that, okay, they used to see maybe a phone, you used to see a washing machine, and so on and so forth. So I used to look at it standing outside, and this is the time I'm in NDS/Cisco, right?
Yeah.
So it was much more of a fanboy, and I never imagined that I would land up in Flipkart.
Right.
And this is something one of my friends who was a close friend of mine and who is a colleague in India,
Mhm.
who landed himself in Flipkart.
Okay.
He was the one who convinced me, saying that, oh, like, what are you doing? You need to really give it a try at least.
Yeah.
Why not just give it a try?
Mhm.
So uh, those questions, the things that you asked, right? Whether I had a security issue, or the hustle problem and all those things. I think the hustle was something that I was used to. Um, it was
It's
not
something
that
you were chasing, quite honestly.
I did not find work. Work always found me,
Yeah.
and that has been continuing all through. My family is not very happy with it, but that is how I have been.
Yeah.
And so the hustle is something that I used to love, as in solving problems, looking at things, and something that to was always a look forward to. On the
Mhm.
security side, I think I was I think I was always confident that I will land something. Okay, this doesn't work out.
Yeah.
This doesn't work out. I was confident that it is not going to be a challenge if this doesn't work out.
And I guess there
Uh,
was a certain degree of conviction about the business as well, because as you said, I mean, when you see things, when you see the scale of things, especially something like e-commerce in its nascent stages,
yeah, I
just
think
the reach of it.
yeah, by 2015, I think Flipkart was no more that question mark kind of a thing. Flipkart was already
Mhm.
established, and while there were still people who had doubts on, because the whole concept of doing a business, a loss-making business, was new to India. Like whenever you think of
Absolutely,
business,
yeah,
business means profit. There
yeah,
is no concept of, oh, I will burn now and wait for the profit to happen later,
yeah,
and still be able to raise funds and have investments and all those things, was always a, a, a stigma, or something that is
absolutely.
alien, right? And we saw
Mhm.
that also, right? There was a lot of consolidation that happened
Yeah,
during that time, where a lot of those small e-commerces that were there folded, or maybe it got acquired or consolidated in
Mhm.
different ways. I think that happened, and that did impact a lot of people.
yeah,
And it did impact their careers. It did impact uh, uh, the way they wanted to their trajectories to happen, and so on and so forth.
right.
So yeah, it was true. It was true, but I think it was a bit of out of syllabus for me, actually.
I think that's really nice, and I guess just the experience of being a part of a scale up journey, because it's one of those stories that's going to be told, right? And you're going to always have that role in being a part of the early days before it got acquired. So moving forward, and I wanted to also talk about how much emphasis you've put on keeping your health in check, keeping your fitness in check. How did that play a part in you kind of entering this health tech space through Pharmacy and IHX? So what part of your, when did your, first of all, the fitness journey start with regards to all the activities that you do, and how did that contribute to your health tech journey?
I kind of again I was never I learned to, I learned to ride a bicycle when I was in my seventh grade.
All right.
I was never a sports kid. Never into any kind of sports. Never played anything. So it was all whatever small bits of cricket that used to happen because of this, that took gully cricket kind of a
Yeah.
thing that used to happen. But again, not good at it. But I think in 2014, 15, at that point of time, but having said that, I was because of my uncle. Uh, if you know of the traditional uh, gyms, traditional gyms, akhadas types,
Yeah.
right? where you have the mudgars and the red soil in which you go and do the kushti. So
Yeah.
we have seen, the Amir Khan's movie. Which one is that? Not getting the name. So
It's the one with the female wrestlers, right? The
yes, yes, yes,
one,
yes.
yes,
So,
yes, yes, yes.
or maybe Sultan also,
Yeah.
that akhada that is shown in the this one, right, where
Mhm.
the kushti happens.
Yeah.
So that is how he was associated with that. So we had some mudgars and stuff like that at my
Mhm.
home. I used to exercise with them, and that was in my when I was in my when I was a kid.
Mhm.
2014, 15, somehow I got into interested into running,
Yeah.
and I don't know why and how. I think it was that adrenaline for maybe just uh, going and doing an event, maybe a TCS 10K. TCS 10K is something that is again coming up
Mhm.
next Sunday now.
Yeah.
um, so that is something, maybe because of the popularity of it, and stuff, I thought so.
Mhm.
But to be very honest, first time I tried running, I ran only 300 meters, and then I had to stop.
Yeah.
After that 300 meters, I could not run, and then that 300 meters became 1 kilometer, became 2 kilometers. Um, and I got up to like 10 kilometers, 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers kind of runs. I did some events, and went on uh, doing those things. uh, but I think one of the major events that happened in that period was that I met Milind Soman in Kaban
Oh,
Park
wonderful.
on one of the days when I
Mhm.
was just doing a run and I finished the run, and he was standing there barefoot.
Mhm.
And I then came to know, like, when I came back home and looked at his Twitter feed, I see that he had actually done a 100-kilometer run barefoot.
Oh God.
And it was, I think, 8 o'clock in the morning that he had finished it. So that means he had started like at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the night.
Yeah.
So that's when I got into barefoot running. So I
Okay.
started doing barefoot running. Last 7 years I've been doing barefoot running. I just stopped doing barefoot running only last year, 2022 Jan onwards. But before that,
Mhm.
it was all barefoot that I was running.
That's
In the
really
middle
nice.
of it in 2018, uh, because I had a swimming pool in the apartment, I uh, thought of learning to swim. I did not know how to swim, so I
Okay.
started to swim. And swim running was happening. I just said that, oh, if there is cycling also. So then I got into triathlons,
Wonderful.
which led to doing a Delhi Olympic distance triathlon in 2021, and then
Mhm.
I also attempted a Ironman 70.3 in Tallinn, Estonia, and then Goa 70.3 Ironman 70.3 also in 2022. So that's how the overall journey of, I would not call this as health. This is fitness. This is not health.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's quite a distinction between health and
Absolutely.
fitness. You
Yeah.
can be fit, but you might not be healthy.
Right.
You might be healthy and you might not be fit. But I think being healthy is much more important.
Absolutely.
So that is what was going on. Just, but beyond that, also I was interested into well-being. It is not just about fitness. I was also interested
Yeah.
into well-being, how our body works, how our mind works, and so on and so forth. Pharmacy happened to me again after a successful stint in Flipkart, where I really, advertising was my foray there, and
Mhm.
got into merchandising and recommendations and CRM, the marketing bits of it, and those things as well. So top of the funnel
Yeah.
for the e-commerce journey point of view. Pharmacy happened to me as another job change,
Right.
not really because I wanted to be in health or so,
Mhm.
but going into pharmacy and looking at how India consumes medicine
Yeah.
was a bit of a shock to me,
Mhm.
because I was shocked by the amount of expenditures that are happening on medicine,
Yeah.
especially chronic. Online is mostly chronic
Right.
medicine. It is not acute. Acute and chronic.
Mhm.
Acute is Like you get a fever or you get a
Yep.
cold, you go to the doctor, and it's a one-time kind of thing. Chronic diseases are much more lifestyle
Regular
diseases.
prescriptions. Yeah.
Yeah, like diabetes or hypertension and these kind of things, where these things have been uh, on a on a ever growing trajectory, in spite of COVID.
Yep.
I thought COVID would be one of those things which would actually make people to be much more
Conscious.
um,
Yeah.
and much more aware of what's happening to them, and so on and so forth. But I think these lifestyle diseases, as I was talking about, right? But the reason why I mentioned delayed gratification was instant gratification has become like a only gratification now. That's
Yeah.
the only thing that most of us actually try to look forward for, because we think that how do you know that you will actually get a gratification, the delayed one, right? So
Yeah.
unless you are getting something quickly, uh,
Mhm.
doing something about it is like a no-no, right?
Yep.
So I think that, like for example, right, like in our Indian lifestyle, a deep squat was
Mhm.
like a lifestyle thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
A deep squat was a lifestyle thing, and now we pay for doing a deep squat. Uh, so that is how it is, and that too we want to know before doing it. We want to know what is the benefit of it. We
Yeah.
will not do it unless we understand it, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that is where it is I would say becoming a challenge overall, where we think that we can understand everything. That is the first
Yeah.
thing.
Mm.
uh, and unless we understand, we will not take action on it. We will linger around, we will loiter around, we will sit around
Mm.
doing nothing, but we will not do it, right? Like if you look at every small thing that was followed in the households,
Yeah.
like how water was, let's say, preserved,
Right.
like the stillness of the water in a metal vessel,
Yeah.
why it is kept, and how it is kept, the sanctity
Mhm.
of it, or how do you consume food. All these things are really, really contributing towards these lifestyle in general. How movement, for example, right? Like movement, we are forgetting. Movement is like movement being the medicine for a lot of things.
Yeah.
uh, we are not even able to get that minimum movement in us, right?
Yeah.
So I think that is unfortunate. That is very a sorry state that we are in, where
Mhm.
convenience is become uh, convenience is becoming our enemy as we go.
Definitely.
We think that convenience, the more the convenience, the better, is what is our thought process. But I think that is what is the root cause for most of these chronic diseases that come in.
Definitely. Yeah.
So getting into pharmacy, getting into IHX, both of these places, it it was saddening. It was depressing to get the reality, to know the reality, right?
Mhm.
Uh, um, the amount of spending that happens on prevention versus the amount of spending that happens overall, right? That is like hardly. I think in the US, I think there was some study that was done, and it was told that it was just 3% of the overall health expenditure, which is in
Oh my God.
prevention,
Hmm.
right? Because prevention is not lucrative. Like if I want to do a business, prevention is not lucrative because the
Yeah.
customer will never be able to see the gratification of it. It's a
Absolutely. Yeah.
long gratification cycle, right?
Hmm.
You have fever, if you are provided a medicine, and if it gets uh, all right in
Yeah.
instant, is why you are actually appreciating it. If somebody is coming
Hmm.
and telling you that you will not get fever, you will first of all not believe that. Oh, how do you know that I will get fever?
Yeah.
That's that's the
Yeah.
conversation that anybody will have, which is very natural
Yeah.
to a mind,
Hmm.
right? That why would I invest? Because that's how capitalism works. Uh,
Absolutely, yes.
Overall,
Yes, that's what my thought was as well.
right?
Because we're conditioned to kind of have seek things that provide value in real time,
Yeah,
and we don't. I mean that's I think that's been a challenge with the consumption mindset we have versus the saving mindset as well. and
Right.
we don't see the value of saving versus the value of consumption. So definitely, I mean that kind of mindset shift is something that's really needed. You spent lockdown obviously through a pharmacy, but another revolution I would say was the emergence of AI, and there's been a lot that's been said about how it will make life easier. Being in healthcare, I'm sure you've seen some fantastic use cases because honestly, it's mind-boggling how much AI can contribute to the healthcare space as well. But another side effect of AI might be what the challenges might it might pose to people's jobs. And just wanted to know what you feel about it and how you feel people need to be prepared for it.
Yeah, I think that's a long topic. As in, I think it's something that I have been keenly involved and observing overall, right? Again, right, after taking that convenience story ahead,
Yeah.
AI is making it more convenient. Uh, Everything is getting much more convenient, right? I am getting much more efficient. I am getting much more productive. And what does that mean when you're putting that in the lenses of how much work to be done, right? uh, there are two ways of looking at it. One is that, okay, there is going to be more things to do,
Yeah.
and because of which there will be more people required to be done for that same thing. So that means that the jobs, there will be a different kind of a jobs, there will be a different kind of a things to be done, and hence it's not like a major problem. It's okay, it will be okay kind of a thing. The second is that, and I'm more on the second
Yeah.
story. Uh, and the way I look at it is like, if you just open up the OpenAI release notes,
Yeah.
the OpenAI release notes. I think ChatGPT came on 8th December or something like that, or roughly November last week or December first week, uh, in the first version that was released for a public use, right? And
Yeah.
if you look at the release notes since then, right, until now, if you look at the things that they have released, the things that they have done,
Yeah.
and you now combine all the major uh, companies and major institutes who have really done so many things, it's comparable. The kind of impact these releases have is comparable. And this is not possible that these things are happening because humans are actually driving it,
Yeah.
right? I believe that, and I see that the technology is building technology,
Yeah.
right? And when you see that technology is building technology, that means that the number of people who are required to build technology are, of course, going to be, that's a question mark that will be there, right? um,
Absolutely.
I can look at, like, while I can look at the transformation that happened, let's say when I started my career in 2004, the same for the same functionality, the number of lines of code that I had to write to what I write now, let's say, right, or somebody writes now, let's say, is has come down to one line. So if I was writing it as 100 lines or 200 lines or 10 lines or 50 lines also, most of them have come to one line now, right?
Yeah.
But that was a gradual shift that has happened over a period of 20 years, right, where
Yeah.
we were able to adjust to it, we were able to figure out, learn and unlearn and learn and do all these things. But the pace at which this is happening right now, the overall shift in the way things are getting built, and this is,
Yeah.
I don't, if you've seen Sora,
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah. I have, I have. I was so impressed, and I was just the quality of what was produced. I was blown away.
yeah. So think about it. Think about that industry now. When we are looking at, let's say, what did social media do, right? A TikTok, a Instagram, all these short format stories. We used to look at our ideal stars, the superstars, right? Be it in the West or be it in Bollywood. we used to look at them on the screens, and we used to look at see, and everybody wanted to be that, right? There was always this aspiration of somebody, oh, I want to be like that, and people used
Yeah.
to mimic them. I still remember in
Mhm.
my college days when Mohabate had come, and when people were wearing that sweater and walking down the roads there and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So everybody used to mimic them. And when the
Mhm.
social media allowed people to be that, now you have
Yeah.
influencers who have star-like following,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yes.
A common person from a village is able to actually be that,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes.
So that is what we saw, and that happened in how much time? That was just like in very few years that just happened. And now, if you look at it, Sora, for example, right? We have been awed by a Christopher Nolan. We have been awed by some of these like directors that have made films, right?
Yeah.
Think about the producing and direction of a movie. Making a movie was such a big business, and the entry barrier was so high because it was a capital intensive,
Absolutely. Yes.
right? Now this short form were happening. Now think about, everybody has ideas, everybody has their
Yeah.
stories,
Right.
everybody can imagine saying that, okay, this is how I would want, if I make a film, this is how I would want to make it. Now think if
Mhm.
AI makes it possible, right, in a
Yeah.
cost effective manner,
Yeah.
the percentage of people who will start doing it as a part time, right? There's going to be a the boom in the whole content industry in a different way
Absolutely.
altogether. It's just
Absolutely.
opening up this whole opportunity across, and that is going to be a threat to the well established industries for decades.
Yeah.
Correct. So parallel to that, in every industry, right, coming back to engineering and coming back to these things, I think
Mhm.
I don't know what is going to be what's going to the new era would look like, right?
Yeah.
GitHub, when it did its June last year, when it did its June conference, they
Mhm.
GitHub Copilot, they said that it's 55% auto-generated code now,
Right.
right? 55%,
Yeah.
and it is growing. There
Mhm.
are new open source editors that are coming out where you don't have to pay also.
Yeah.
Things like I forget some of these things like Codium and SourceGraph and all those things have actually
Mhm.
been solving problems, solving certain use cases just for code review. They are solving just for like documentation. Some of the tools are coming up, right?
Mhm.
Llama 3 got released recently by Meta,
Yeah.
which is now they are claiming that it can actually give a competition to ChatGPT 4, and it's open source,
Right.
right? Just in 1 year, 4 months, 1 year, 5 months, the technology shift that has happened is just, I would say, crazy. It's
Yeah.
just crazy. It is inhumane to keep up with these things. Every day you wake up, go to your Twitter
Mhm.
feed, there is a new thing that has come up. There are so many
Absolutely.
companies that were built, let's say somewhere in April, May of last year, on top of,
Mhm.
let's say, how GPT is and how they were doing it. And
The
today,
ones they call rappers and
and they are just getting killed because in a
yeah.
they came up in like 3 4 months, they got killed in
Yeah.
6 months. If you see the cycle, it's getting
Yeah.
shortened, shortened, and shortened,
Absolutely.
right? So I think we don't know what it is going to be. The only thing I think, what I think is possible, what can I can do or
Mhm.
what we can do, is be with it,
Yeah.
make myself efficient, make I today I have, let's say, a certain capacity with what I am working with.
Mhm.
It will be foolish to say that, oh, that is a competition to me.
Yeah.
I should look at it as a compliment to me and see how I can enhance myself, right?
Mhm.
To do the same thing, how can I actually bring down the time, how can I actually do 10 things than 8 things,
Yeah.
right? I think that is where the whole focus will have to be. And I'm not talking about the products that are coming out of AI here. That is going to
Yeah.
be, of course, a story of its own. And
Mhm.
there is no doubt that there will be some phenomenal
Use
products that will be
cases that
coming
will
out.
come out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Healthcare, of course, is one thing. You take law, you take some of these
Hmm.
traditional businesses or
Fields. Yeah.
traditional that are there, right? Some of these
Mhm.
things will just get disrupted with these things getting stabilized, when the hallucinations will come down, when they will be more reliable, when there will be more regulations behind it, when they are more
Yeah.
trusted, and this will
Yeah.
happen. I don't think so that is it will be
It's
foolish to
not
say that
far
no, no,
away.
no. That,
Yeah.
yeah. I think the scary thing is space, and the only thing
Hmm.
that we can do is be with it. Try to just be with it. Doesn't guarantee you a success, but not being with it is definitely
Digging
guaranteeing
your
you a
own
failure.
grave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what
I
I would
think
say.
accepting the change and being with the times. And I
Yes.
guess you can't say being with the times as much as you could have before, because it's more so of anticipating that the times will be very rapid in their change. And you have to accept every morning as a changed morning and be with it. Take it
Yeah.
on the chin.
in my in my
And
in my in one of my
hmm,
all like a gathering, small meeting that I had with my direct reports and some of the architects and so on and so forth. I This was in Farmizi. I
hmm,
was very clear to them saying that I am considering my that at that point of time I was around 18 and a half years of experience. I'm considering that as zero right now.
hmm.
Let me mark it as zero
Yeah.
and set my way of looking at things, right?
Hmm.
Like for example, in my interviews that I had done at IHX, in those interviews the very clear indication, very clear expectation was that you don't write code, you use the GPT, you use the GitHub Copilot. I will judge you based on how you are actually interacting with these tools than you yourself
Absolutely.
doing it. Because otherwise, one, humans make mistakes. Humans are less
Yeah.
efficient. Humans
Yeah.
plus AI now becomes a major uh, tool overall to actually
An
be
asset
efficient
for
or
any company. Yeah.
and actually be less error prone. So this is something that I have been propagating, and I have been because I don't see any other way.
Yeah.
Whether it is right way or wrong way, time will tell. But I think I don't see any other way though.
No, absolutely. I think it's for employees to kind of leverage that, and for employers to kind of understand that these tools will only build efficiency, and I think that becomes crucial. And with this particular segment, I think we have a very relevant question. I think the first one we've answered already. But how would you suggest someone, who's still new into the field, to kind of keep up with advancements? What kind of resources should they access on a regular basis to so that they're up to date with what's happening?
See, I think I might sound like a paranoid here, but one thing is that I would tell people, and this is something that I tell. I'm a life coach as well as a lifestyle coach. Also, people do
Mhm.
come for me for suggestions and advice to me. One thing I tell people is that don't spend time thinking,
Yeah.
right? You do things. You don't try to evaluate, oh, whether this is the right path, this is the wrong path, this and that. You're wasting your time, right?
Yeah.
The first thumb rule is that you do things. You judge
Mhm.
yourself by the number of things that you have been doing in the day, not the number of right things that you've been doing or the number of wrong things you have been doing. Just doing the
Mhm.
things, doing things.
Yeah.
And you can do only so much. You
Absolutely.
cannot actually conquer the whole world in a 24 hours, right?
Mhm.
You know what you know, you don't know what you don't know, right? So to keep up with these things, like it's a barrage of information. Like
Right.
if you are following some of these let's say you are subscribed to YouTube channels, or let's say you are following somebody on Twitter, or any of these social media platforms. If you keep
Mhm.
looking at it, you will just get consumed, and it will give you a false kind of impression that you are keeping up.
Yeah.
It's like actually registering for a gym and thinking that I'm invested in my health and not actually going and working out.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So the most important thing is that you should actually break out from this mirage of keeping up versus actually keeping up. So it is to be very clear, maybe on a weekly basis, or if somebody can do it on a daily basis also, what are those new things that I'm actually encountering, and how many of them I'm actually trying,
Yeah.
right? If you don't try them, there is no point in actually just reading them and uh, knowing about them as information,
Right.
right? So the thing that I would say is that put a metric against this, that how many things
Mm-hmm.
you know and how many things you do to try,
Yeah.
right? And try to keep in that ratio in a healthy
Mhm.
manner.
Yeah.
Otherwise you'll keep knowing, and because it's no trying, there is no experience, and because there is no
Yeah.
experience, knowing doesn't make any sense, because there is so much
Hmm.
to know tomorrow, there is so much to know the next week,
Yeah.
right?
And
It
it's
might,
kind of built on your knowledge of what you've experienced in the past
yeah,
as well.
it might feel that okay, today what am I learning is becoming obsolete tomorrow. It might feel like that.
Hmm. Yeah.
But the process of that learning, right, is going to
Hmm.
help you in terms of keeping up with the next thing and the next thing and the next thing,
Absolutely. Yeah.
right? It is not a waste at all. So that's where it is very important to judge by the number of doings than the
Hmm.
number of doing the right things, and oh, did I get something out of it or not? The getting something out of it
Yeah.
is that you are learning and unlearning. You are
Hmm.
learning and unlearning, and through that process of learning and unlearning is helping you to get that hang of how to keep up with it.
Yeah.
It's only in the doing you will know what to do than
Hmm.
just the knowing. I think that is what I would say. Be it a front end developer, be it a back end developer, and I think
Yeah.
now nobody should be telling themselves they are a front end developer and a back end developer. I think everybody should move to become a end to end developer,
Yeah.
right? Or end to end person, because today we saw when White Hat Junior had happened, we saw 6 year,
Hmm.
7 year old building an app and
Yeah.
uh, all this kind of things that we saw in the news. But let's discount that. But today it is possible. You don't know that
Absolutely.
technology, in a matter of a week you will be able to build a application out of it.
Hmm.
So I don't think so. We should tag ourselves as, oh, I'm a backend developer or a front end developer. I should be problem solving, and whatever
Hmm.
needs to be done for that problem solving, I'll do it. That
Yeah.
should be the that has to be taken, because technology is no more a major barrier. I think if you watch uh, Hanseng's interview, I think in
Hmm.
Massachusetts, where he made this statement saying that every human will be a programmer.
Yeah.
When he says this, he must be thinking about this maybe 2 to 3 years behind. He is coming out
Hmm.
with that statement, means that there is conviction behind it now, that is possible.
Yeah.
So when every human can be a programmer, there is no point in trying to tell myself I'm a database guy, I'm a DevOps guy, I'm a front end guy, I'm a back
Hmm.
end guy, and all those things. So I think the aspiration should be that okay, I can do anything in technology because I
And
have
create business value with it.
yeah, yeah.
I think that's really important to understand, especially with just the amount of innovation in low code, no code, and automations. So I think this is a really great notion to kind of cap our session. And I know we've gone overboard by a few minutes, but this was definitely filled with a lot of learning, sir. And I definitely feel like for anyone in the audience who's kind of overwhelmed by just the amount of change that's coming. This session had a lot for those people to assimilate and how to kind of uh, act on the change, right? Because you're not going to have absolute knowledge. You're not going to have complete knowledge. Uh, all you can have is a knowledge of how to execute of your learnings. And I think this was a great notion. So, I wanted to thank you on behalf of our community and our audience for sharing your, learnings and your journey. And for the audience, thanks a lot for joining. I hope this session gave you an idea of how to stay up to date and build your career the way Sir has. And we'll join you next week with another session. Stay tuned and thank you again, sir.
Thank you. That was nice talking to you.